Good evening, peeps, and welcome back to my living room. Because I am very mean to my cat, I only just remembered to feed her a few minutes ago. I forgot that she gets dinner early on live stream nights to buy her silence, so she will be agreeable to doing this. She should be finishing and joining me in a minute. So we are coming near the end of our series on the Ten Commandments, which are, of course, 1, God alone is God, don't worship other gods. 2, don't keep idols, especially when they have horns. 3, don't misrepresent God's will, because words, W, matter, M. So don't go around claiming that God told you to do something that God did not tell you to do. 4, keep a Sabbath day. See, the thumb is resting. You gonna come up? Oh, was dinner yummy, I hope? Okay. Sabbath day. Cats. 5, honor your parents. Maybe that's a salute, or creating a stable family unit that wants to stay together, although the fingers are together. So 6, don't murder. I was purging some files earlier and had to recreate this, and I made some typos on this. There are 10 commandments, not 9. I accidentally deleted one. Anyway, 6 is don't murder. 7, don't commit adultery when 2 people make vows in front of their community. Those vows mean something, which we covered last week. And I also should mention that not committing adultery is a really low bar of being faithful to a marriage, I would like to think. We're on tonight is 8, don't steal, or you go to jail behind bars. 9, don't lie. Fingers crossed here, and 10, don't covet. So as you might have read in my newsletter article this week, I have a cat who is particularly fond of breaking this commandment. She likes to steal things. I somehow left off of that list once she stole a Pyrex container. Like, does she think she needs to refrigerate her leftovers? Like, she doesn't really keep leftovers. She eats her food pretty quickly. I don't understand cats. Anyway, so tonight we have You Shall Not Steal, Exodus 20:15, or as it is on my bracelet, Thou shalt not steal in the older English. So this is another fun thing where in English it's 4 words, but in Hebrew it's just 1 word that manages to convey all 4 of the English words. So it's ganav, the entire commandment is just ganav, 2 syllables. So why shall we not steal? But maybe more importantly, what does it mean to steal? Because I have definitely never, for example, robbed a bank, which I don't even know why that's the first example that comes to mind. Whatever. Definitely never done that, but there are a lot of other smaller kinds of ways of stealing that we should probably think about when we think about this commandment, because it's not just the big obvious things, it's the smaller things too. So, is it stealing to break into a house and take a TV? Yes, definitely. No one's going to contest that one. What about insider trading? Or burning copies of DVDs rather than buying the movie? That might be a slightly dated reference for me. I mean, I deliberately didn't mention Napster on this list because that would really show my age. Anyway, what about insurance fraud or plagiarism? What about the refusal to pay a living wage? Taking advantage of someone's generosity? Being careless with something that you've borrowed because it's not yours, so if it gets, dinged up a bit, I mean, it's not yours. I would say that is stealing. Maybe stealing company time, cutting in line, taking pens. Oh my gosh, before I moved to Michigan, I worked at a medical office in New Jersey, and the pens, they were such a problem. Everyone took the pens. There was one point when we ran out of pens. Stop taking the pens. So maybe taking sugar or condiment packets, more than you need, or on purpose to take home and, shove in the condiments packet drawer that for some reason every kitchen has, the miscellaneous drawer with the very old ketchup, or soy sauce or whatever. Maybe sneaking fries off of someone else's plate. I firmly maintain that fries are much tastier when they're from your friend's plate, because I usually only want like a couple, so it's more fun to steal them. And then the friend is like, it's okay, you can have my fries, and then the sport is gone. Part of the taste is the sport. So maybe using someone else's Netflix account. Perhaps we could refer to tax evasion as stealing, claiming credit for someone else's idea, or maybe also pushing the work in a group project onto somebody else, but then like getting that grade. That's definitely something that's happened to me a lot. Or like there was one group project in college where like I gave out all these ideas that we were taking notes on, and then in the next meeting someone's like, oh yeah, and we can do literally all of these things that LR said in the last meeting. It was like, those are the things I said. Those are not the things you said. Didn't really do anything else in the project. Not the point. Or perhaps keeping a library book past its due date, especially if you know that there is a waiting list for it. That might be on my mind because I've got something to return to the library this evening. So what about stealing in the Bible, since there were not library books in Bible times, obviously? I read this afternoon that some scholars argue that the verb we translate as do not steal is something more like kidnapping than stealing, which I think is really interesting. I am not a Hebrew scholar. By any means. I've got a couple friends who are. I might ask them about it later. I think that's really interesting. And I would definitely say that don't kidnap would fall under don't steal. A lot of things fall under don't steal, and there is an awful lot about stealing and fair wages throughout the Bible. So for example, in multiple places in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, there's some very strong language about how scales and weights need to be accurate. So if you're in a marketplace and you're selling what you're trying to say is 5 pounds of sugar, but it's not actually 5 pounds of sugar, it's 4 pounds of sugar, but you're charging the worth of 5 pounds of sugar for it, that is stealing, and there's multiple commandments against that. Deuteronomy also mentions don't move a boundary marker to steal someone else's property, or like moving your fence onto your neighbor's part of the neighborhood so you get a bigger yard, but it's not yours because you're stealing their yard. Failure to repay a debt is also mentioned in Leviticus. That could be considered stealing. We have a deal, Gingersnap. You're part of this live stream. Ignoring a lost object, which I think is really interesting. I would not have thought of that, but ignoring a lost object. Maybe you know who it belongs to, but you just don't mention it. Or, oh, hey, this finders keepers, this is mine now, dibs. There's something in Deuteronomy against that. There's a really great story in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 21-ish. Basically, the moral of the story is, do not have someone murdered so that you can steal their vineyard. Really great story. I think I preached on it a couple years ago. The king has this guy murdered, and his wife and like his whole family murdered, because without heirs, the property goes to the king, and he wanted the vineyard. It was very much a jerk move. As we've covered before, don't murder people. But anyway, that's a very specific example. Don't murder people so that you can take their stuff. So, are there circumstances under which it might be morally acceptable to steal? For survival, perhaps. There's some really interesting ethical case studies and conversations to have around those that seem weird if it's just me talking to my cat because she's more prone to stealing things than having actual conversations with me. You're very cute, though. But very hypothetically, because I don't see this happening, if we lived in a perfect society, would there be theft? If there weren't any poverty or material needs, would there be theft? Who knows? Humans are sometimes strange. Not as strange as cats. Cats are very strange. So if we create a society in which people have to steal to survive, whose sin is greater? The leaders who steal lives and labor by paying for less than they are worth, or the poor people who steal necessities? Does that seem like a somewhat loaded question? Probably. Anyway, so we often think of stealing, as I said, in terms of the big things, robbing a bank or like shoplifting, etc. But it can also extend down to taking the office paper clips. Remember when we were supposed to have the future of the paperless office? Oh boy, all the offices I have worked in, we are so far from paperless. So far. I got so many paper cuts in the medical office. Not the point. So, I mean, there's definitely a ratio or a gradation of things, and if you have to steal, it's probably better to take the paper clips than something bigger, I guess. But then at the same time, if we're really taking ethical considerations as far through as we should, then we should consider, this small thing also unethical? Sure, it's not as bad, but shouldn't I still, not steal the thing? Or take advantage of the person, or whatever? Because as we went through, there are a lot of smaller things that fall under this. So obviously there are a lot more than 10 sins, but there are 10 commandments, even though they're not explicitly numbered out as 10 in the Bible. We decided that 10 was an appropriate number for them, which is interesting. I think we like to have things in order. There's a lot of things that we should do or that we should not do that definitely go beyond this list. Jesus once said that all of the rules and the prophets and all of the writings, they sum up to two things. One, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And two, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I don't have that one on a bracelet. Maybe I should to finish out the set. So how does the commandment, thou shalt not steal, remind us or encourage us to love God and to love our neighbor? Definitely, if you're stealing from your neighbor, that is not a very loving thing to do. But maybe in a more positive verbiage to help your neighbor, give them a hand every now and then, I guess, that sort of thing, and to hope that they are successful and not just that you are successful. So we've got 2 more commandments to cover, so we will be back next week and the week after. So in the meanwhile, I hope to see some of you tomorrow night for our evening prayer. If you missed it last night, I did a short service for Memorial Day. That's probably the post just beneath this one on Facebook if you scroll down a couple inches. And of course, on Thursday afternoons, we have our virtual fellowship time. So I hope to see some of you again this week. I hope that if you have cats or other pets, they are not as prone to thievery as some cats are. And she just gets away with it because she's cute. So, mouse falling asleep. So peoples, good night. And we hope you're well.